Good morning, New Providence, and greetings to you from Jonesboro, Arkansas. My family and I wish we could be with you all this morning, but we had a great day yesterday celebrating our son's wedding with our beautiful new daughter-in-law. And I wanted to record this sermon and this teaching today because it had been on my heart for quite some time, even before our family plans became what they were. And as the time drew closer, I just felt that this was really a word that I wanted to be able to share with you today. And so we're doing it this way, and thank you to Lynn Scott and her help for being able to be a part of this and to share with you as she is. It's Palm Sunday, and in the story of the Bible, this is the beginning of Passover week, and in the gospel narratives, it's around the year 30 AD. And Jerusalem is packed. It's packed full of people and pilgrims who've been streaming in from all around the world, all around the region for this feast. And here they are out on the hillside. They're coming down from the Mount of Olives. And something is starting to build there in the crowd off to the side. There's a noise, a stir, the kind of movement that pulls your attention, even if you're not looking out for it. Because here are Jesus and his disciples on the road. They're coming into the city as a part of the celebration, but Jesus isn't walking. He's riding on a young donkey. And the people lining the road that morning making their way in, they know exactly what they're seeing. Because 500 years earlier, the prophet Zechariah had written this: "See, your king comes to you righteous and victorious, lowly and riding on a donkey." A prophecy had been setting in the scroll for 5 centuries. And now it's happening in real time, right in front of them, right there on the road to Jerusalem. This is a staged prophetic act. Jesus is very intentional in what he's doing, because what we are seeing here in this Palm Sunday processional, this is a royal coronation procession. The king is entering his city to take his throne. And so as Jesus and his disciples make their way along and the crowd begins to gather, they start waving palm branches, as we saw the kids do, and we reenact this every year. And that matters because in the ancient world, palms, the palm leaf, symbolized victory and royal honor. It was associated with the power and the victorious conquest of a king. And so you wave them to welcome that victorious king returning back in to claim his rule. And then they spread their cloaks on the road out there in front of Jesus as he makes its way. That's another royal gesture. This is what you do when a king is being publicly recognized and welcomed. And then the crowd begins to sing. Of course, they've been singing all morning as the day is gathering on. Their songs come from what we call the Hallel. It's a group of psalms, Psalm 113 to Psalm 118. And the Hallel psalms are processional psalms, a collection of songs that every pilgrim would sing together every year on the way up to Jerusalem for Passover. In Psalm 118, that is being sung here in this story of the triumphal entry in the Gospels, it's the final psalm in that collection. And this crowd would have sung it their whole lives. Every year, every Passover, when you're coming together, it's sort of like singing the national anthem before the Super Bowl. It's a part of the ritual. And right there in verse 26 in Psalm 118 is this coronation greeting. It's the formal welcome of a king. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. That's exactly the right psalm for this moment. It's a royal welcome. It's the right song for the right king, and it still is. But to fully feel the weight of this moment with Palm Sunday and the processional, the triumphal entry, that procession, we have to understand more about what the people are carrying in this moment. Centuries earlier, the Babylonian Empire had destroyed Solomon's temple. They'd carried the people off into exile. But that event was not just a military loss. Something far deeper came undone when this happens. The glory of God, the manifest presence that had filled the tabernacle there in the wilderness, later the temple when that is built, that glory of God departed when the temple is destroyed. And of course, eventually a small remnant returns from Babylon back to Jerusalem. They rebuild the temple, they rebuild the city, and the structures are again standing, but the glory, the presence of God never did come back. It didn't return. And in the years after, the prophets said it would. God promised that it would. But centuries passed, it didn't. And then Rome arrived. The soldiers in the streets, and the throne of David still sat empty. And for the Jewish people, the promises of God are still hanging in the air here at the beginning of this Passover week. Promises are there waiting. From their perspective, the exile was not over yet. Hadn't been for hundreds of years. Not at the deepest level, because God's glory had not yet returned into their midst, into the temple, until this moment. In that palm-waving crowd that day, they knew what the Messiah was supposed to bring: the end of exile, the defeat of the oppressor, the restoration of David's throne, the return of God's glory. That's what a coronation like this is supposed to signal. And that's what's going on in the minds of the people. And so they cry out this word from Psalm 118, verse 25, Hosanna, Hosanna. We often hear that word today as a simple celebratory praise of excitement. But it's more than that. The word itself, Hosanna, means save us, save now. It is rather a cry of desperation. And it's what comes out of you when you've been waiting a very long time, and then suddenly you see hope moving toward you. You suddenly see somebody that maybe can do something about it. And so there is joy in it. There is real joy in the cry of Hosanna. But underneath that joy is everything they've been carrying: exile and silence from God and occupation, the waiting. Where is God's glory? All of that comes out in this one word. That's Hosanna. It's the joyful, desperate, relieved cry of a people who've been waiting a very long time, and who now, as they watch Jesus and the disciples marching in, walking in, Jesus on the donkey, now they believe the wait is finally over. They were not wrong that the King had come. They were not wrong that something was ending. They were not wrong that something new was indeed beginning. They were singing the right psalm. They were singing the right song. They were greeting the right King. They were crying the right cry. Because this is a royal coronation procession. But it will turn out to be a coronation itself, unlike any that the world had seen or imagined.